What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 55 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And today, we got a couple games to recap. We got the 49ers versus Seahawks and then the Raiders versus Steelers to recap and, sort of turn the page from week 6 on to week 7, in which we will be discussing the 49ers versus Chiefs and Raiders versus Rams. Obviously, we're going to start off the show with the 49ers. The 49ers are now back on top of the NFC West. They have defeated the Seattle Seahawks. The final score was 36-24. And really, I felt like the 49ers were in control of this game and they were actually able to, close it out as opposed to the other NFC West games that they have played, over the past couple weeks. But, just a lot of the keys to the game that I think that I gave was limiting Kenneth Walker and limiting the Seahawks rushing attack, which the 49ers were able to do. The 49ers limited Kenneth Walker to just 2.3 yards per carry. He did get a rushing touchdown, but, it ended up not really playing a factor in the end. And, the Seahawks kind of abandoned the run. And I think that was also, to the 49ers' benefit. The Niners were able to not, focus so much because they did a good job of establishing, or I guess they did a good job of limiting the run early. And then the Seahawks kind of had no choice but to play catch up for the rest of the game because the 49ers offense, I think, they started off a little bit slow in the first quarter. It was, there were only 3 points scored in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, the 49ers, were able to score 2 field goals and a touchdown. Obviously, that long touchdown pass to Debo, it looked like one of those plays like, in the old NFL, Debo would have probably been knocked out of the game. But in today's NFL, that is that's a tutty. That's easy money for Debo. I'm sure Mike was pretty excited about that because, Mike, you have Debo on your fantasy team. And I forgot to mention, so looking back at like the past Seahawks versus 49ers games, they have typically been big Debo games. I don't know why I didn't mention that on the podcast. I just forgot. But, aside from that long touchdown, I don't think that Debo was really much of a factor in the game besides the Niners were able to get him going in the rushing attack just a little bit. He had 4 carries for 15 yards, and that averages out to 3.8 yards per carry. And yeah, so talking about like the passing game as a whole, my thoughts on Brock Purdy's performance, I think it was overall it was pretty positive. One thing I will say, which is good news, it's going to sound like a little bit of criticism, but it's good news. I think Brock Purdy can be even better than the way that he played against the Seahawks. They are typically a pretty good secondary that was maybe a little bit banged up, missing one of their top cornerbacks in Tariq Woolen. But I think that Purdy on a couple plays maybe can, improve in getting through his progressions a little bit better and maybe staying inside the pocket, for a little bit longer, rather than bailing out. But, I think a couple of weeks ago, I was saying how much it's nice to have a quarterback that can escape the pocket. Now I'm kind of, I guess I would say talking out of both sides of my mouth. But in terms of I just think Purdy would also agree that, there's a couple things that he could clean up. But overall, solid performance from Brock Purdy. Jordan Mason did go down in the game. Jordan Mason finished off the game with 9 carries, 73 yards, averaging 8.1 yards per carry, which is, insane. Like every single game that we talk about Jordan Mason, his average yards per carry is always very high. So, he's a very good running back. He's in a good system. And, Jordan Mason averaging 8.1 yards per carry wasn't the most on the team. It was actually Isaac Guerendo, the rookie running back, who had to come in after Jordan Mason got knocked out of the game with with a shoulder injury. Like, he didn't really get knocked out of the game for very long. He came back in and then had one rush, and then after that one rush, I think like they just completely sidelined him for the rest of the game. But I want to say it was a shoulder, like an AC, yeah, an AC joint sprain that they said it was. So we'll have to monitor what that means for Jordan Mason going forward. I don't necessarily know the severity of the injury, so give me a slap on the wrist for not being prepared for that portion of the show. But Isaac Guerrero came in, and you can see the flashes of Isaac Guerrero and his playmaking ability with just his raw talent. I think the thing about Guerrero is just being able to read the holes properly and hit the right holes. Because, I mean, I saw this comparison being thrown out. I think I was listening to KNBR, the post game show, or maybe it was 95.7 The Game. But there was a caller who called in and compared Isaac Guerrero looking like Raheem Mostert. And honestly, that's kind of what it reminds me of, because, I mean, the speed is there. I think the size is there. And yeah, I mean, we all know what Raheem Mostert was able to do. And I think it's pretty good that the 49ers have a lot of different options that they can, utilize in the run game, because not only did Mason and Guerrero get going, obviously Purdy, I talked about his scrambling already. He carried the ball 4 times for 19 yards. Patrick Taylor Jr., I thought looked fine in the game. He had 5 carries for 16 yards, obviously not as efficient as the other running backs. Most of Guerrendo's yards, going back to Guerrero, most of Guerrendo's yards came on that. I forget how many yards it was, because, I mean, that was on Thursday. But you saw the breakaway speed, and obviously the Seahawks player came in and like swiped at Guerrendo's feet, and he tried to play it off as if, he was sliding, which was the right thing to do in that situation. I think Shanahan said, he would have liked to see Guerrero score on that play, but I mean, that's such a small thing, and it didn't end up making a difference in the game. But that's that clock management of the games late in the game. Shanahan, I think the smart thing to do is probably go down and milk the clock so the Seahawks don't have a chance. But maybe Kyle was just joking. I'm not gonna look at it too critically, but for a couple games this season, I have criticized Shanahan for his clock management, and obviously there's no way he could have, I don't think that he was expecting the Seahawks to really be, to come back in the game. At the end, it got got a little bit, a little bit close. Like, I think the Seahawks came within one possession towards the end of the game, and you're just kind of sitting here thinking like, is this going to happen again? But the 49ers were able to close out the game, and yeah, finishing up my point with the rushing offense, Deebo Samuel. Obviously, I said that he had 4 carries, and then Kyle Juszczyk had 1 carry for 6 yards and a touchdown. He jumped into the stands for the second time in the game, because Kittle had a toe tap touchdown and then found his wife in the end zone along with Juszczyk. And it's funny, like when I was watching the game, I was like, hey, no, Kyle Juszczyk shouldn't be jumping in the stands. He has to earn it. And then later in the game, got the touchdown, he earned it. So, part of me thinks that the utilization of Juszczyk this week is sort of, I don't know if there's like a little bit of showmanship, where there's been a lot of buzz surrounding Kyle Juszczyk recently, and his lack of contribution to the team, and social media, because Kyle Juszczyk recently called out a friend of the show, Grant Cohn. But I wonder if this was like, Grant's pretty critical on Juszczyk, and just his, he doesn't really contribute, in the stat book, or in terms of actually getting the ball, and he's getting paid a lot of money. So maybe this is like a little bit, definitely Juszczyk got some love in this game. So, you interpret it how you want at home, but part of me is like, that isn't that funny, after the big criticism of Kyle Juszczyk and him being under the spotlight a little bit.
Mm.
The passing game was extremely balanced. I want to say that the targets were kind of evenly distributed between most of the receivers. In terms of catches, it's pretty close. Deebo Samuel had 3 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Kittle had 5 catches, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ayuk, 2 catches, 37 yards. Jennings, 3 catches, 27 yards. Patrick Taylor Jr., Juszczyk, and Mason also got involved in the passing game, catching checkdowns. But one thing I will say that is it's interesting to me. And a lot of things are interesting to me because I say it a lot here on this podcast, but what are the 49ers going to do now that they're going to be activating the practice window on Ricky Pearsall? He is going to be, getting back into this lineup. Is there going to be a role for him? Is he going to be a punt returner? Where does he fit in on this football team? Because when Pearsall was drafted, my assumption is that either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel would be gone. They're both in this offense. They just paid Brandon Ayuk $30 million per year with $75 million guaranteed. They just extended him. And Ayuk is having trouble carving out his own portion of this offense. I think Ayuk only had 4 targets. They're very efficient targets. He had 18.5 yards per catch, but where does Pearsall get in? Because Juwan Jennings has even emerged this season. Jennings has always been a good player, but this is probably easily his best regular season so far.
Mm.
And
he's definitely on pace for that, for sure.
Yeah, he's on pace for that so far. Ricky Pearsall did they just draft him just to be insurance if Ayuk didn't sign? I don't know. That'll be something to monitor going forward. But, ultimately, it felt pretty good that the 49ers did end up winning this game, getting back in the win column, because had they lost this game, do they make the playoffs? Can we project the 49ers if they had lost to the Seahawks to make the playoffs, sitting at 2-4, going, playing against Kansas City? Obviously, it's going to be a home game, so that might, add a little bit of a wrinkle to it. But I think this is a good moment to pivot to the 49ers versus Chiefs preview. We have to talk about it, Mike. Are the 49ers going to be able to beat the Chiefs this time around? They have yet to do it under the Shanahan era.
Oh, well, I would say this is definitely the weakest, least healthy you could possibly meet the Chiefs. As in the Chiefs team is unhealthy and weak at its weakest right now. Granted,
have they been going to McDonald's with Andy Reid?
Yeah, granted they're 5-0. Yeah.
Is that how unhealthy they are?
I
know what you mean. Health-wise,
yeah.
Like in terms of injury, they are a banged-up football team right now, missing a lot of their playmakers.
Yes, the last quarterback. Did the Chiefs play today, or are they coming off a bye against you guys?
They're coming off a bye, and Andy Reid coming off a bye is a lethal head coach, lethal play caller.
That's usually the Raiders that drop the the Chiefs off the bye. So for once, the Raiders make out well, I guess. Not that it matters this year. Well, that's tough. Are we in week 6 right now?
This is going to be week 7.
Going on to week 7, yeah. Okay, so yeah, they're 5-0, even though they are extremely injured. Well, to put it simply, I'm not going to bet against Andy Reid coming off the bye week. I think the Niners got a big win this past week against the Seahawks, but the Niners are coming off of Thursday Night Football, so they get their own little extended bit of rest as well. So It's not completely, unfair. And I mean, you do have. I mean, you obviously don't have everybody. You don't have McCaffrey. Uh,
Yeah, it's like
that's tough.
it's almost like both teams that met in February got a little bit worse. They
Yeah.
regressed just a little bit because, right now the Chiefs are missing Rashee Rice and Isaiah
Yeah.
Pacheco. Those are two huge losses on that offense. But I mean, the Chiefs still do have Xavier Worthy, whereas they didn't have him in February.
Mm.
Obviously, the game went the way that it did. They will be without L'Jarius Sneed, who they traded this offseason. So that sort of works in the 49ers' favor. But on the other hand, the Chiefs' defense is still very good.
Yeah, they still have Trent McDuffie. It's like I mean, Spagnuolo. It's just Spags. He will get it to work every year for them as long as he's with the Chiefs. And then in a year from now or 2 years from now, if the Raiders were to hire him as their head coach, it suddenly wouldn't work out. But that's just how things go in the NFL.
Are you hinting
I'm
at something that you really want?
We'll see. No, but as far as this game against the Chiefs for the 49ers, I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs here. I see the avenue for the Niners to win this game. They're at home, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be a primetime game or is this a 1 p.m. game?
I think this is a 1 p.m. game. Let me double check. So 49ers versus Chiefs. It is going to be at Levi Stadium at 1:25 next Sunday.
It's probably the game of the week on Fox or something, but still, it's like if you take away the injuries, I don't know what the schedule makers were thinking there. That's the game that everybody should be like, oh, I got to see that, But
Well, everybody already did see it in February, is what I'll say. I don't know about you. Like, here's the thing. I said all these things about the 49ers having, sort of like a minor advantage in the timing that they're playing the Chiefs this season because the Chiefs will be without Pacheco. They will be without Rashee Rice. Obviously, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to get Hollywood Brown back at any portion, but as of right now, the teams that we saw in February, these are regressed versions. They are not, deep playoff teams at this current stage right now. It's a double-edged sword because the 49ers are also without their offensive player of the year in Christian McCaffrey. Also, the defense, they're not playing at a high level right now. The Chiefs picked up Kareem Hunt off the street, and Kareem Hunt just handled 27 carries last week. And, I think Kareem Hunt, they utilized him a lot. Obviously, he's not going to be an exact one-for-one replacement to Isaiah Pacheco, but I like Kareem Hunt's skill set. I think we talked about Kareem Hunt as one of the players to sort of watch for the Raiders to pick up when we were talking about the whole Josh Jacobs contract situation with Josh McDaniels last year. I want to say Kareem Hunt was one of those guys that we said to watch. And then Kareem Hunt obviously didn't get signed and then eventually went to the Cleveland Browns. But there's going to be a couple matchups that I am interested to see. Will the absence of L'Jarius Sneed this time around mean that Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel is going to have a better game this time around? Will the addition of Dominic Pooney help against Chris Jones? Yeah, because Chris Jones, I mean, he was the guy that sealed the deal for the Chiefs on defense when 49ers had Brandon Ayuk wide open in the end zone, could have won them the Super Bowl. Obviously the Chiefs would have gotten the ball back still, but small things like that, like the ball could have bounced the 49ers way a little bit more in that game. You never know. They might have been champions. Will Dominic Pooney, who has been playing very well this season so far, be will he be able to contribute? Will Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa step up like they did against the Seahawks? I'm bringing them up now because I forgot to bring them up in the Seahawks recap. I knew I was forgetting one thing. It is nice to see rookies actually contribute. Both of them had interceptions against the Seahawks. We have seen in years prior, there has been a lack of involvement from 49ers rookies. And this is like the renaissance. This is, I think, in my opinion, the best draft they've had in some years. Who from last year's draft is even contributing now? Jake Moody right now is injured.
Right.
We don't even have Cam Latu anymore. We didn't have a first-round pick. Our second-round pick was – did we have a second-round pick last year? Oh, was it the defensive end?
Is it Drake Jackson?
Was it Drake Jackson that year, or was that the year before? I forget.
I feel like that was the year before.
Yeah.
I think last year he was injured, unless that's this year.
Jair Brown.
There you
Yeah. Jair Brown. Yeah. So he has been like the lone player from last year's draft to actually be contributing right now to this football team.
Yeah.
And then Jake Moody when he's healthy. This year, I think we can see it. Renardo Green is a massive upgrade over Ambry Thomas. But one thing I have an issue with is the only reason why Renardo Green saw the field is because Charvarius Ward didn't play. Is Charvarius Ward going to suit up and play this week? I don't know. That's going to be huge, in my opinion. Charvarius Ward is a hell of a player. Now imagine if we can get Ward, Lenore, and Renardo Green all playing at the same time. They're all pretty physical corners, especially Ward and Green. I want to see if they can out physical the Chiefs in this game. Try to bully the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's probably how you have to do it if you want to beat them. That's how the Raiders did it, and that was the last time that they lost a game.
Yeah, the last time that they lost a game was to the Antonio Pierce-led Raiders on Christmas Day.
And Aiden O'Connell is the last quarterback to beat the Chiefs.
Aiden O'Connell, Merry Christmas. Go fuck yourself. Not you, Aiden. Not anybody in particular. Just I don't know why I said that, but I don't know. When it comes to picking a winner in this game, man, I'm gonna have to do it. So just to recap last week, Mike and I are back in the green column for the 49ers. Mike, you are picking the Chiefs in this game?
Yep.
Oh man. I mean, here's the thing to consider too. If I describe this team to you right now, without saying a team name, which team does this describe? This team has been very successful over the past several years. This team has yet to lose to the 49ers in the Shanahan era. This team constantly gets help from the refs in very crucial moments of every game. This team is the darling right now of the NFL. This team has billion-dollar girlfriends in the stands that take camera time away from the players constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And this team is making the NFL the most money right now. What team am I describing? I didn't use any names.
Well, I know it's not the Cowboys.
Yeah. No,
but it sure does sound like the Chiefs.
This is the first time on this podcast. I want to be very clear. I'm rooting for the 49ers to win this game. I'm a 49ers fan. I even brought the helmet just in case because I know I'm wearing a different hat today that's not a Niner hat. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game because Andy Reid, coming off a bye, has such a great record. The 49ers just beat the Seahawks, but the Chiefs are not the Seahawks. You know, if the 49ers win this game, I'm feeling really good about their, I guess, game against the Cowboys and going into the bye, how they kind of stand in the playoff picture, and if they're the team to beat in the NFC. If the 49ers can hand the Chiefs their first loss, that would be something. But it's something that I have not seen yet, and I don't think I can pick against the Chiefs winning this football game. And this is the first time on this podcast, we've been doing this since last season, where I have picked another team that was not the 49ers, where I'm predicting that they will win.
Yeah, that's what going on a dynasty can do, for sure.
Yeah.
You want to know something disgusting?
The Chiefs?
Well, yes, for sure. But besides that, just looking at this, these columns here and looking at, okay, Chiefs, Cowboys, bye week.
Yeah.
We are 2 weeks away from mid-season. That doesn't feel right. Like, this season's flying by.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh.
Yeah, I posed this question on Twitter. It's sort of posting for, like on the Silver and Gold podcast Twitter account. If you want to give it a follow, the @ is @silver_gold pod. So, the sort of preview for this episode, I asked, are the 49ers the team to, have they reemerged as the team to beat in the NFC? Do you think so, Mike?
The team to beat in the NFC? I think today the team that showed themselves as the team to beat, although they lost their best defensive player, is the Detroit Lions.
I forgot about the Lions.
Yeah.
I've got two other teams that I'm thinking of who can also fit the description of the teams to beat in the NFC ahead of the 49ers.
I'll give you one for sure is the Vikings.
The Vikings, and the other one is the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 49ers will play the Packers in a couple of weeks. So we will see how the tides sort of shift in the NFC, to that point.
I want to see one other score before we get off that topic. I want to see if my app will load. All right, really quick. Let's go league. Okay. So the other team that I was thinking of, I don't necessarily think they are a team to beat, but they are by far the upper echelon of wildcard teams in the NFC, the Washington Commanders. They've played the Ravens today, and they lost to the Ravens, I think at 30-23. But they have been playing very well. And if they can keep that up, and especially if they can win that division, that is definitely a team to look out for. But I wouldn't call them a team to beat. A team to beat in the NFC. Like, that's... You know who else? Last one, Buccaneers. They are sneakily good right now.
The 49ers will play the Buccaneers coming off their bye week. So that will be in 4 weeks from now. So we're in week 7. That's going to be week 10.
Yeah.
Or we're headed into week 7. That's going to be week 10. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that, like I mentioned, we're getting close to midseason, like the playoffs and the implications are starting to show themselves, and these teams are starting to really show themselves. So, it's getting interesting. I would definitely say that this season has felt very weird between a lot of key injuries, including, Christian McCaffrey, everybody on the Chiefs, but a lot of different teams like losing players, whether it's long-term or even short-term, and then teams like the Commanders and Vikings coming out of nowhere and being top teams in the NFC. It's like, what is going on here? So it's been an interesting season for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, if a team like the Vikings can continue being that top seed, I don't know how I would feel about the 49ers going into Minnesota to play a playoff game. That would be very tough. But one
Man,
thing I will say is I feel like at some point Sam Darnold is just going to screw that team over in the biggest Sam Darnold way. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, we're going to be talking about this a couple months from now, and Sam Darnold beats the 49ers in the NFC Championship game in Minnesota. And then I'm going to be begging for Jed York to fire Kyle Shanahan for keeping the wrong quarterback. No, I still think Purdy's better than Darnold, but Darnold is actually, playing well this season, surprisingly.
That's the thing with Darnold to me is like, I think his early career was very reminiscent, but like a poor man's version of Derek Carr, where it was like going coach to coach to coach, struggle, struggle, struggle. Whereas Carr, it was like, coach to coach to coach, but he kind of slowly got better and better. And then obviously 2016 happened and so forth. But he never kept it consistent, right? Whereas Darnold, like a lot of quarterbacks, I think in the NFL, you want them to pan out year one, year two, by year two, get it right,
Like
and
CJ
then you,
Stroud, Jaden Daniels,
yes, that's what you're looking for, and even like a first overall pick this year,
Caleb.
Caleb Williams, like he started off slow, he started off with a lot of mistakes and stuff, but like this week he went out for 4 touchdowns, and I won't be shocked when a year from now it's like, yeah, he's one of the top 8 quarterbacks in the league. Because most quarterbacks, they kind of hit their next gear in the second season of their career. And it's like those rare quarterbacks, the Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud, were just like year one, they're going,
Straight out the gate.
straight out the gate. But I'd say most quarterbacks, at least most quarterbacks that don't pan out immediately and maybe even get kind of, not forgotten about, but their team gives up on them. They kind of run out of the clock on them. A lot of those quarterbacks, when they get another chance, think of Geno Smith. You know, um, this isn't quite the same, but Jared Goff, like he always had his chance, but then the Rams kind of gave up on him, traded him. He's way better now with the Lions. And I think a lot of that is coaching, but also quarterbacks being able to get consistent time with an offensive coordinator and just time in the NFL. And I think that might be something that's happening for Sam Darnold, who was a guy who, when Baker Mayfield went first overall, which that's another great example, is Baker Mayfield and how his career has gone. But when Baker Mayfield went first overall in that NFL draft, it might have been 2017, a lot of people thought that Sam Darnold was going to be the first overall pick, in large part because as a prospect, he had all the tools as a quarterback. It was just a matter of, can he get it to work in the NFL? And I think O'Connell has proven in the short time that he's been the head coach of the Vikings that he is a very, very good offensive play caller.
Mhm.
And maybe he was that guy that Sam Darnold needed. And, now suddenly, I mean, a couple years ago we had the Ravens backup. I'm forgetting his name.
Huntley.
Tyler Huntley, he made the Pro Bowl. Last year, Gardner Minshew made the Pro Bowl. It is not by any means a stretch to say right now Sam Darnold is a Pro Bowler. It's right now. And I get your point of like, I'm waiting for him to kind of falter and slip up and, do the Sam Darnold thing. But I'm kind of looking at this in a more optimistic sense. I know this isn't a Viking show or a Sam Darnold show. He used to be on the Niners, but I have an odd sense of belief in him. I think it's going to keep working for him, and for all I know, he will be the Raiders quarterback next year, or he will
You know
will
what?
be starting next year. He will be a starter. Bank it.
You know what? You bring up a very interesting statement. You said this is not a Viking show. I'm going to see Nick Swartzen in about like 2 weeks or
Nice.
3 weeks. So, you know what? We're a Vikings show now. We will be talking about the Vikings. Forget the Niners. Forget the Raiders. Silver and gold is now the purple and horny. No, but no. Getting back to reality, we are continuing to be 49ers and Raiders. If you couldn't catch my sarcasm. Yeah, man. Piggybacking off your point, it really matters where you're drafted and the system that you're in, because we have seen the Jets just be horrible organizations. I didn't even bring this up, but like last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, I said, can we just fast forward to when Robert Saleh gets fired by the Jets and, he becomes the 49ers defensive coordinator again?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the Jets look horrible. They like as an organization, because they had the number 2 defense with a defensive head coach, and their solution is, you know what? Hey, the guy who's not even calling the offense, get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And then Nathaniel Hackett just sits and gets to watch his Austin Powers movies and make gold member references. I think Hackett has since been demoted as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he had his play calling duties revoked.
Yeah. So my brother and I, we have this like funny thing that like, we just kind of talk shit about Nathaniel Hackett a little bit on how he's like a really bad offensive coordinator.
Yes.
But a couple of years ago, the Jets were on Hard Knocks, and I think my brother and I grew up watching the Austin Powers movies. That was like, those were on repeated rotation. As we were growing up, and so in Hard Knocks, I guess Nathaniel Hackett makes like Austin Powers gold member references. And, I think like I told Joey when he got demoted, it's like, no, he just, his new position now on the Jets is the International Man of Mystery. That's his new fucking job title on LinkedIn, International Man of Mystery. But let's get back on topic. Let me say what's up to the people in the comments section. Thrash says hello. Thrash, welcome back. Fonzie says, what's up, guys? Fonzie, also welcome back. We're fine. Took a couple weeks, but we're back on top. Back, first place, NFC West. Things are looking up, except for the fact, Fonzie, you missed it. We're still technically under the Niners Chiefs preview. For the first time, I think that the 49ers are not going to win a game this entire time that I've predicted. This is my first prediction against them. So the death of Slim Shady, coup de grace, the death of picking the 49ers every single week as a lock, for Josh. So, I mean, the Niners could win, but I don't know how I can pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't look dumb again. I just can't. And hopefully the 49ers make me look dumb. So let's talk about the Raiders versus the Steelers, Mike. I was able to actually catch a lot of this game. And, oh boy. I mean, we predicted it, right? The Steelers defense versus the Raiders offense.
Yeah.
It was not going to spell good things for the Raiders. They were incredibly inefficient in the run. Well, what are your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, when we talked about this game last week, we did not know, although I may have said something along the lines of, it's a possibility that Aiden O'Connell would get the start, and he did. And after the first drive, it looked like that was the clear-cut, obvious choice to make, because drive number 1, they went down the field and they scored a touchdown, and they looked very good on offense. And then after that, I don't know. It was like Luke Getsy lost his AI privileges. Or what's the thing that writes paragraphs for people now for like their homework?
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT. Like his Chat GPT for play calling got revoked after the first drive, and it just went to shit. But it wasn't just an offensive struggle. There were some highlights, like Brock Bowers, 9 catches for 71 yards. He just looks lethal. But I will say, as far as against the Raiders, Najee Harris going for 100 yards, I think on 14 carries. He just looked dominant when all season he hasn't looked dominant. Which
Actually, he's looked all right this season.
he's been fine.
He's been good this
fine.
season.
Yeah, I don't like. I'm not trying to hate on him. I love Najee Harris. Just
this has been his best season since his rookie year.
Yeah, that checks out. Minus, like, he hasn't had a touchdown until today. I don't think he has had a 100-yard rushing game until today. But that's not to say that he hasn't been good. I don't mean that in a bad way towards him. It's just, of course, it's the Raiders defense that gives those things up to him the first time this season. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Justin Fields actually didn't have a very good game. His only touchdowns came rushing. And yet he was able to, in one way or another, put up 32 points on this Raiders defense. Mm-hmm. So, Alexander Mattison, 14 carries, 33 yards. Okay. Aiden O'Connell, 27 for 40, 227 yards. Okay, cool. 1 touchdown. Okay. And 1 interception. All right, that's about as expected. Like, I can't be too mad about that, but like, when you pair in 14 carries for 33 yards from Madison, and that's the best you get from the run game, that smells like a loss to me. You know, 30.
You know what the Raiders did well? They pass blocked and kept Aiden O'Connell upright for most of the game. I think they only allowed 1 sack to Cam Hayward.
Yes, and that was something, that was a direction I definitely wanted to go, was that DJ Glaze was, I believe, starting at right tackle in this game, and he did not give up a sack to TJ Watt, which is very impressive for a rookie right tackle. So he definitely deserves his kudos there, you know.
You know what? I'm going to take it a step further, because I remember I made the Joe Alt, you know, and Max Crosby dad joke, you know, and son joke. DJ Glaze made TJ Watt his son.
Well, I wouldn't exactly go that way. I get, like,
he made him his stepson. Made him his stepson. You know, yeah. we gotta scale it back a little bit, you know, because the Raiders ultimately didn't do anything on offense. But yeah,
in the pass rushing or pass blocking sense, you know, you could say that as a joke for sure. But TJ Watt did get a major strip of Amir Abdullah on the goal line late in this game, I believe in the third, maybe even the fourth quarter, right when the Raiders had like a slight chance to start coming back, just completely wiped the game away.
That entire sequence, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that entire sequence, because that was some of, like, you know, we talk about coaching inexperience with Antonio Pierce. This was a bad moment in his coaching experience, because the Raiders got very close to scoring a touchdown. It almost looked like they might have scored a touchdown. You know, you had Amir Abdullah making a good play, rushing to the left side and diving for the goal line, and it looks like he might have gotten in. And then instead of challenging it, the Raiders do the exact opposite. They rush to the line, not even giving time for like somebody upstairs to tell Antonio Pierce, hey, maybe we want to take another look at this one. Instead, I'm thinking to myself, as they're running this play, I'm like, what are they rushing to the line for? You know, if anything, you should challenge this play. And then they hurry up. They run the next play. Amir Abdullah fumbles. That's sealed the game right there. And even the announcers were talking about it. Like, you know, I don't understand why they ran hurry up, you know, and I forget if the announcers said, like, you know, they should have taken a look at that play. I think they should have absolutely it was worth taking a look because it's like it was kind of so close to tell whether or not the ball might have crossed the goal line. You know, if it would have possibly been a touchdown, or if not, maybe the ball would be spotted at the inch yard line instead. You know, but yeah, the Raiders rushed for God knows why. There was plenty of time left in that game.
Yeah.
They
I
didn't
don't
take a look.
know. Let's see. Maybe I can find out really quick how much time was left in that moment. Can I go? Let's see. How do I do this? Play by play. Yes. All right. Fumble. No. Okay. That was Dylan
As you
Latvia.
find the play-by-play, I'll get through these comments and then you tell me.
Okay.
Fonzie said, in terms of the Niner stuff, that's what being a fan is all about, ride or die. Talking about, he's picking the Chiefs in that game. Yeah, man, I don't know. I responded to that in the comments. I'm rooting for the Niners in that game. I just think that, the Chiefs might take that one because they're coming off a bye. Fonzie said, I see how you can feel like that. They're not as strong as their record indicates, though. Plus, Brock is miles away or miles ahead of where he was last year rehabbing his elbow. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But they still have to win the game. So, Will, tuning back in, says, yo, my guys. Will, welcome back.
Welcome.
Week 3 in a row. Made it not super late this time. Yeah, it seems like you already did your laundry. You already steam pressed all the sheets, and you returned all the tapes.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
I don't think Will got mixed up with Paul Allen today. So
yeah,
that's good.
The business cards.
Yes. Okay, so the fumble that was forced by TJ Watt happened, it looks like, with 14 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I'm talking out of the third quarter, the very first play of the fourth quarter was the 10-yard run by Amir Abdullah where, he almost got in the end zone, or maybe he did. I don't know. And then, like you said, they kind of rushed it, ran a play on the 1-yard line, and TJ Watt is able to force the fumble. I agree. I don't know. I think if I had to put myself in Antonio Pierce's shoes, he's probably thinking, okay, let's see. He got 10 yards. It has to be a first down, right? Let's see. No huddle, right tackle.
It might have been.
Oh no, it was okay. It was third and goal.
Oh,
yeah, it was third and goal on the fumble play. So I'm assuming. See, where my head went was like maybe Antonio Pierce is thinking I can't waste a timeout and get that wrong,
So the reason why
because it was 22-7.
The reason why he was able to gain a couple yards, and we didn't even bring this up right before the Abdullah rush to possibly get that touchdown right there. The Raiders had a wide open touchdown to Alexander Madison wiped off the board for an illegal man downfield, and the Raiders did not challenge the penalty. They could have, I think, challenged that penalty because the play clock ran out. The clock hit zero. No, the game clock ran out. It hit triple zeros. So
a play should not have, quarter.
The play should not have even been run, and it backed the Raiders up. And then Abdullah makes a good play, possibly gets that touchdown. They don't review that either. And then the next play, fumble. It's like 3 strikes and you're out. That was the third strike right there.
Yeah. I was confused by the ineligible man downfield call. I was kind of.
It was a bad call. It was a bad call.
Yeah. I just was like, I don't understand how he's downfield, but whatever, right? I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Because there have been worse instances that don't get called. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
credit to the officials. They are finally calling it this season. I have noticed it called a lot more this season.
Mm.
And illegal formations. They've been making an emphasis this year
Oh,
to
yeah.
address that. But they are, they're still not super consistent with it.
Yeah. But I would just say, as far as finishing up on that play, like, that was definitely the turning point of the game where, like, going into that moment, it kinda already felt like, I know we have a full quarter ahead of us, but this offense is not doing anything. I mean, we're finally down the field again, but, like, they just have not gotten it going in this game. It's 22-7. They are on the goal line. It could be 22-14, and then you're down 8 points. You're down a touchdown and a 2-point conversion with the entire fourth quarter to go. Fumble, Steelers recover. That just was like that was
That
the
was the
straw that
game
broke
right
the
there.
camel's. That was the game for sure. And then after it, like, it sure was, because the Steelers ended up punting, but then the Raiders get the ball back. They get an interception. Steelers get a touchdown off of that, 29-7. Raiders go down, score a touchdown, but it's too little, too late. Field goal for the Steelers, downs for the Raiders. End of the game. Like, yeah, I'm just over it. I really don't care. I just want the first overall pick, really. Like, I'm honestly, what I was gonna say about the ineligible man downfield. Like, I was making myself lunch while watching the game on my phone at that moment, and usually, like, my past self would have been like losing my mind. What the fuck is that call? All this stuff, and then the fumble and the goal line. I'd just be like falling out of my chair. Like, what is happening? And I was just sitting there like, I cannot wait to eat my food.
Made a really good sandwich.
Yeah, I made yeah.
Fonzie asks, "Hey Mike, would you take Jimmy G over your current quarterbacks?"
Jimmy G, what? I would. Ooh. If I wanted to win more, ooh man, no.
The
I would
answer for
still
me is
take.
no. The answer
Yeah,
for
I
me
would
is
still
no.
take. I would still take Aiden O'Connell over him. And I would take Gardner Minshew over him too. Honestly, I would. Like, I don't hate the quarterbacks currently for the Raiders. Whenever the Raiders do draft a quarterback, I don't really necessarily want Gardner Minshew still here, but if it's best for the contract or whatever to just keep him next year, hey, it's not a bad thing to have multiple quarterbacks that can start. But yeah, like, I don't despise anybody this year. Like, I was very over Jimmy Garoppolo after that Lions loss last season, in part because I think I cared a bit more about that season. I wanted to see them win, and I felt like they could. And hey, I came into this season feeling like we should be better than last year. We should be a borderline wild card team. And here I am in week 6, just completely throwing in the towel. Just like, I don't care. This team, like, we were talking about the Niners and the Chiefs being injured. The Raiders are fucking injured, man. And it's not, I don't think, as many as the Chiefs, and hey, again, credit to the Chiefs, dude. Fucking Andy Reid, Mahomes, etc. But we just lost Christian Wilkins. We've been struggling at running back. I mean, even without Zamir White, it's no different than having him there, unfortunately. But we've had some offensive linemen go down. Malcolm Kuntz before even week 1. It has not been fun. We had Crosby out for a week. Now we got, Devontae Adams, which we're still kind of waiting on all that to figure itself out. Jacoby Myers was out for this game. It's not looking good, folks. It is not looking good.
Brock Bowers had another great game.
Yep.
What was my prediction at the beginning of this year for the season predictions?
Uh,
My prediction was Brock Bowers was going to look like a stud, and the narrative was going to be, oh man, Bowers is actually, he's legit. We need to get him a quarterback that can throw him the ball.
Yep. Yeah,
we're seeing it in real time.
Yeah, and my thought,
come to the Silver and Gold YouTube channel for the future in the moment.
Yes.
Hopefully that blows your mind.
This wasn't necessarily my prediction, but more of like I can easily see this was early on this season or even off season, I felt like I can see Brock Bowers transcending into the number one receiver for this team, probably coming out of this season. But hey, if Davante Adams does get traded, he's the number one receiver by far. Like today shows it. I mean, Jacoby Myers wasn't there, and for some reason Trey Tucker was invisible. But like who else?
Steelers defense.
It's the Steelers defense, and they couldn't sustain drives and stuff. But still, like, who else in this team is going to get 9+ targets a game? Like that's just Brock Bowers right now.
Harrison Bryant or whoever that tight end is.
Yeah, that's another one. Is Michael Mayer. No idea what's going on. It sounds like it's a personal matter, and that's why nobody knows what's going on. But I hope that he's all good. Yep. I know we were kind of, I don't know what the term is there, but wondering like, oh, could he be the guy with, fucking Antonio Pierce saying that business decisions, all of a sudden right after that, it was like Davante Adams is requesting a trade. Michael Mayer is out with a personal matter. Jack Jones doesn't play for a quarter, all this other stuff, right? And I don't know what's going on with Michael Mayer, but it sure does. He was put on not IR, non-football injury list. And point being, I hope that he is okay. I hope that he ends out all right and back with the team and playing back to his old self, whatever's going on with him.
To finish with this question, I would still take Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew over Jimmy G because I think we saw last season the offense just looked better with O'Connell, and I think O'Connell can actually kind of throw down the field, whereas Jimmy Garoppolo just refuses. So, you add Davante Adams to Aiden O'Connell, and I think the efficiency goes up a little bit more, better targets, the ball maybe drives down the field a little bit more. You'll see a little bit closer to what you saw last year with the Raiders, but yeah, I think it's over for Jimmy G starting in the NFL. And I appreciate Jimmy G for a moment there in time, for a good chunk of time. Jimmy Garoppolo restored my faith in the 49ers because he went 5-0 when he went back in there. He was Jimmy Jesus, okay? He has regressed ever since then. 2019 was his last good year. Everything else after that, I hate, I don't want to say dog shit, but it wasn't great, like making the playoffs was great, but they weren't ever as good under Garoppolo as they were in 2019. And then Brock Purdy has just, everything Brock Purdy has done has wiped away Jimmy Garoppolo's legacy.
Has Jimmy Garoppolo did Jimmy Garoppolo play in this past preseason for the Rams?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I feel like it was like I feel like it was all Stetson Bennett. Well, I think the suspension was only weeks 1 and 2. Like I think you can play in the preseason technically, but I don't remember ever hearing about him.
I don't think he did.
Yeah, because where my head is going is just if there's a coach out there that can get Garoppolo to still play good in a pinch, I feel like McVay is one of those coaches. I'd say Kevin O'Connell is probably another one. But I think if I'm the Rams, I don't want that to happen. That's for sure. So, anyways.
Will asks, how's the quarterback change looking in your opinion, Mike?
You know what? I think this question kind of takes me to my last point just off of this game. Like week by week, I am for lack of a better term, losing more and more faith in Antonio Pierce.
Have some
But I think,
goddamn faith, Arthur.
yeah, but I think this week was probably the week that was the kicker for me as far as, you know what, week 8 last year, I think was the Lions game. And I said, I am done with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't want to see him again, the rest of this season starting for the Raiders. And I got exactly what I wished for, And if I was kind of over Josh McDaniels at that point too, but I didn't think that Mark Davis would actually fire him at that point, but he did, right? I am done, and I think most Raider fans are. I am done with Luke Getsy. Like, if they fire him tomorrow, I will be ecstatic. The only problem is I don't know if they have anybody on staff that can call plays. Maybe Joe Philbin. Maybe. But I don't think there's anybody else on staff that can legitimately call plays, which suggests to me that they will keep him through the season and then fire him after the season. And at that point, we'll probably be wondering, is Antonio Pierce also going to get fired? Because we looked at the schedule last week. We're going to look at it pretty soon here anyways. But I think the only game right now on the rest of this Raiders schedule that looks like they should be favored in that game. The only game I could see saying that is the Jaguars, and yet they, technically speaking, might be more talented than the Raiders right now. Like, if you don't have Devontae Adams out there, if you have these two quarterbacks starting for the Raiders, and so forth, no Christian Wilkins, no Malcolm Kuntz, the Jaguars might be more talented if they are healthy, right? Other than that, like you bet on the Niners every single week, right? That's what we were talking about earlier of, like, this is the first week that you have not bet on the Niners or predicted that the Niners win, I should say, any given week, as long as we've been doing this podcast. The rest of the season, I very well might pick against the Raiders every single week. Not just because, that's probably the wiser decision, but because genuinely, like, they are that bad. And I think maybe some Raider fans don't realize that yet, but I think they are that bad. And I'm over it. I don't even want to watch the games right now, to be quite honest with you. To answer Will's question, as far as the QB change, I would rather, I think, have O'Connell in there just because he's a young quarterback and he, in theory, should be on this roster longer than Gardner Minshew. So you might as well just get him the reps and let him go to town on the field and the defense. But unfortunately for him, sometimes the defense might go to town on him. So yeah. But I don't know. I think the quarterbacks are really the least of my worry right now. Just because they're not long for this run, if that makes sense. Like, they will be the two quarterbacks the rest of the season, so long as health permits it. But after this season, like, neither of them should start for this team again, health permitted. That's the way that I feel.
You talked about firing Luke Getsy and not having a play caller. I mean, just give Antonio Pierce the NFL Street, playbook and just crash.
Yeah.
Friggin' zone to the left, zone run, zone blocking to the left. Pro pass.
Yeah.
Just make it simple.
Pull out the trick plays. Double reverse.
Yeah. No, but Fonzie asks, would you be willing to trade Crosby for a wide receiver one? I don't think that there is a chance that Mike would do that. And I hate to speak for Mike, but I know his answer. I'm going to change the question a little bit, Mike, because I know you're going to say no, right? Just confirm. You're going to say hell no.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Would you trade Crosby for a quarterback?
I don't think you need to, because they suck. I really believe it's between the Raiders and the Jaguars right now, as far as who should get the first overall pick. Maybe the Panthers are up there. depending on how their season goes. Because I think Doug Peterson might get fired tomorrow, dude. I think you even said that in the group chat. He shouldn't have a job at the end of tonight. If injuries were to start plaguing this team, I could see the Browns being in discussion, and they could certainly use a new quarterback. I like the Broncos. I think are going to be a team that's going to keep fighting week in and week out. They're going to get like scrappy wins. The Chargers are not going to be in the running for the first overall pick. I mean, the Titans are kind of like pretty fucking bad. But like nobody in the NFC West is like dog shit necessarily. Let's see, NFC South. I already mentioned the Panthers.
The Rams are dog shit. They're 1-4, and we're going to talk about the Rams.
Yeah, okay, but I guess my issue with the Rams is I think once their receivers come back, they're going to start leveling out, and they'll probably have like a 500 season. They won't be in the running for the first overall pick.
We'll talk about the Rams. We'll talk about the Rams in just a second here. But
okay, NFC East, like not the Commanders. Oddly, the Cowboys are actually kind of bad right now, but they're not going to be in the running for the first pick. You know that. Eagles, no. And then Giants, like, I think a lot of people thought the Giants would be one of those teams in the running for the first pick, but I think they'll be more around like 10th overall. Like, I think they'll get just before 500 because they're going to be similar to like the Broncos where they're going to get scrappy wins. In the NFC North, nobody in the North is going to be running for the first overall pick. AFC North, like I said, maybe only the Browns. Like the Bengals have a bad record, but they're better than that. NFC or AFC East, Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. Patriots are going to be probably in the running. The Jets should get wins. And the Dolphins, it's really just a matter of if Tua comes back. Until then, they are a flaming, flying pail of garbage, dude. Oh my God. AFC South, like I said, Titans, Jags.
You said who was that flaming?
The Dolphins.
Oh.
Until Tua comes back, I don't know. Like, this is a bad look for Mike McDaniel. No?
Horrible. They just extended him too.
Yeah, and like you can't get Waddle and Tyreek to like get Yak. You know, like that was the whole idea of him coming from the Niners is like, oh, they're the Yak Kings. And they can't, like, I get that their quarterbacks suck, like their backups suck, and they probably should have focused on that, especially considering the injury history of Tua. It's like, man, you really should have vested better in a backup, like a Jameis Winston.
Josh Dobbs.
Dude, a Jameis Winston would be perfect for them. Josh Dobbs, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
but
speaking of Josh Dobbs, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Speaking of Josh Dobbs, Fonzie asks, how about trading for someone like Josh Dobbs in terms of the Raiders? I just don't know if the 49ers can do it. I don't know if they can relinquish a quarterback seeing as how things played out just a couple of years ago. Like, why would they get rid of Dobbs? Like, unless they are seeing good things out of Tanner Mordecai on the practice squad. But I really think the Raiders messed up in going after Minshew and not going after Josh Dobbs this offseason.
Yeah, I
like Dobbs a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know what my opinion would be there because I feel like Dobbs is almost in a way similar. Like, no disrespect to just Justin Fields, Dobbs is kind of similar to a Justin Fields where it's like he can make some great throws. There was that one play where he threw it like to the back corner to number 83, Jacob Cowing, in that preseason. I think it was against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful throw. Like, he can make the throws, but in the regular season, when he's going up against starters, like, I feel like the thing with Dobbs is like he's not exactly the guy that you want to be making all the throws. You know, he does a lot of magic with his legs, you know? Yeah. And I think a part of that is like, oh, when the play breaks down, what's he going to do? Okay, he's going to run. Okay. And I just don't think that fits with Luke Getsy, because we saw that with Justin Fields. You know what I mean? Whereas you kind of need a veteran pro quarterback. Not to say that Dobbs isn't a pro, but more just like he doesn't have that veteran presence that maybe a Gardner Minshew does have. And I think that's something that I don't blame Luke Getsy for seeking out. My personal opinion, and I think you were the one that was talking about this in the group chat, was Jameis Winston. Like, that was a guy that I was kind of like, I could see it. I could, like a Geno Smith type of, recovery for his career. I could totally see it because he's been that 5,000-yard passing guy. He just threw way too many interceptions where it's like if he's had enough time just sitting on the bench and going over film, hardcore, week in, week out, season in, season out, he might actually be the prime candidate in the NFL right now for like a career rebirth, because he has all the tools.
Yeah. I think right now, if Jameis Winston was the quarterback of the Raiders, they would be a playoff team. I really think Winston has probably learned from a lot of those mistakes, a lot of the interceptions that he threw. I mean, look, dude, Peyton Manning threw God knows how many interceptions in his rookie year and ended up being a Hall of Famer. Not saying Jameis Winston would be a Hall of Famer, but like, the dude can air it out. He's got a great personality. I think his teammates all like him. I think it would be fun to have Jameis Winston be a starting quarterback in the NFL again. And maybe he will get his chance because Deshaun Watson, man, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
That is not a happy ending there that I see looming. Fonzie says Jimmy Jesus was thanks to Kyle. Yeah. In retrospect, I thought maybe there was a chance that Jimmy could show out without Kyle Shanahan and being able to be back in the Josh McDaniels offense, but it was a square peg, round hole in terms of the playmakers that he had. And Mike and I talked about it. There's a video. It's like which playmakers are better for Jimmy Garoppolo's skill set. And that was like a year ago. So, my argument was that the Niners playmakers were better for Jimmy's skill set. Mike's argument was that the Raiders, pass catchers and, Josh Jacobs at that time were better, for Garoppolo. Fonzie says, would you trade Adams and Crosby in order to find stability in your team, meaning you get a couple firsts and a couple second rounders?
I wouldn't. I just think my belief is that this is my fundamental NFL belief. Okay. I think that we talked about like teams like the Jets, and we're talking about the Raiders week in and week out, right?
Yeah.
Where I would say that as an overall organization, it's just like, yeah, they're not run very well, right? Maybe the Cardinals, the Panthers are for sure one of those teams. There's a select group of those teams whereas there is also a select group of teams that are just consistently run well. The Ravens, the Chiefs, I'd say the Niners, in my opinion, the Steelers, right? These teams, it's just like year in, year out, they are winning. And then you have the teams that are year in, year out, they are losing, right? And at the very best case scenario, they are a wild card team every here and there. That's the Raiders to a T. That's the Jets to the T. But they're not winning their division, right? They're not winning consistently. That's what I'm trying to see from this team. And once I'm in week 5 or 6 and I see like, yep, another one of these seasons, like I'm at the point now where I'm just mentally checking out. All that aside, my fundamental belief in the NFL is that essentially what Al Davis used to preach, which was when you have great ownership and then you get great coaches and they coach their players into great players, and then you just do one thing and you win, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was one of his main mantras, was like, great organizations get great coaches, they coach well, they make great teams, and they win. I think coaching is imperative to winning. And I was a big believer in Antonio Pierce, and I still think he can be very good for the Raiders. But I'd say the problem is this is a coach who, hey, he has NFL playing experience, and we've seen that work. Look at a guy like, I'm forgetting his name, but the Texans head coach,
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans. I was trying so hard not to say Elvis Doomerville. Don't know why, dude. Don't know why.
I haven't heard that name in forever, but I think Elvis Doomerville may have played for the Texans at a certain point. He definitely played for the 49ers, but
and the Broncos, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, D'Amico Ryans, ex linebacker turned coach. The difference between D'Amico Ryans and Antonio Pierce for me is that D'Amico Ryans went through like the clear-cut trajectory of becoming an NFL head coach, whereas Antonio Pierce, I wouldn't say that he cut corners. It's more of like the Raiders kind of cut corners, you know? It was like, all right, he's our linebackers coach. Cool. For like, what, a year or two? And then it's like, well, we need an interim head coach. Let's get this guy who, you know, has that sort of leadership skill to him, and all the players really buy into him and stuff. And it works, right?
Elvis Doomerville. He was a Bronco, was never a Texan. Like I said, he might have been. Ravens, and then 49ers in 2017. See, I know my Niners.
Yep.
But, yeah.
But D'Amico Ryans, you know, not opposite, but compared to Antonio Pierce, D'Amico Ryans, you know, I want to say was a linebackers coach and then became a defensive coordinator and succeeded with that, right? Like, very great defense. And then became the head coach of the team that he once played for, the Houston Texans. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just working so well. The other aspect to that is that they have a GM in place who is also very good at his job, right? It's not just coaching. It's also, can the general manager, can the people in charge of personnel be good at their jobs, like exceptional at their jobs, like the Ravens have been for decades, literally. Like, that shit is so important to team building and to sustaining success, or that's why the Chiefs are so good, is because they have Andy Reid, they have a great GM, and oh, by the way, they have a great quarterback. So in my opinion, what the Raiders need is a great head coach, a great GM, and oh, by the way, a great fucking quarterback. We have the great defensive end. We don't need to trade him for picks when, if we just keep sucking, I almost said a stupid word right there. If we just keep sucking this year, we can get that quarterback so easily. And oh, by the way, you can fire your current coach. Hire the right guy. If they were somehow lucky enough to be interesting enough to a Ben Johnson, I almost said Lane Johnson. God damn. Ben Johnson from the Lions. If they were somehow lucky enough to be an interesting enough team for Ben Johnson to be like, you know what? I will become the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now you have the head coach. You just have to hope that Tom Telesco is good, because I'm assuming he's not going to be fired after 1 year. Get your quarterback, and within 2 years, in theory, you can be a playoff team. You kind of have the defense on paper to like push for it. You just need the quarterback, and you need the right coach leading the charge. And if that's not Antonio Pierce, don't waste my time. So to answer the question, sorry, I didn't even notice that Adams was in this. I'll easily trade Adams because wide receiver is a very replaceable position, whereas defensive end, especially a top 5 defensive end, if not top 3 in this league, that's not necessarily just replaceable. Like when the Raiders traded Khalil Mack, they didn't just replace him. It took years for them to find Max Crosby, and it took years for Max Crosby to develop into who he is. That shit takes time. You can't just trade Crosby and be like, it's okay, we have
2 years. It took 2 years for them to find Crosby, right?
That checks out. I think they traded Mack after 2016, and then I think they drafted Crosby in 2018 or 19. So
yeah, because
but bear in mind that was a 4th round
was not
pick.
a Raider in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Neither was Crosby. Crosby drafted in 2019. So the following year, like, I'll take it. I'll take it, dude. But that is an anomaly. That's not the norm.
That is an anomaly because he was a 4th-round pick. Like, how often are you going to expect that from a 4th-round pick? In theory, you're drafting a Tyree Wilson and you're hoping that he becomes the guy. And if Tyree Wilson in 2 years from now walks in free agency because he has a Cleveland Farrell type, career, it's like, well, that didn't work out. It's too bad that we traded Khalil Mack. Or Max Crosby. It's not worth it. It just I want to keep players long term, especially players that the Raiders draft. Like that's something they need to develop as a franchise, as an organization, is keeping players in house and building that shit up. You can't just keep depending on free agency. I think Christian Wilkins was playing exceptionally until his injury, but it's not often that you can find a Christian Wilkins in free agency. You're usually going to find a bunch of busters. I'd say a really nice pickup for the Raiders recently was Robert Spillane. He's been playing great, but you're not going to find that very often. You need these Max Crosbys, these Jackson Powers-Johnsons, Trey Tuckers, whoever it is that you draft. You need them to play good, keep them long term. That's what I want. I want the right head coach. I want the right GM. I want the right quarterback. If you can give me those things, there's no reason.
You know who could have brought you that?
Al Davis. I don't know.
Jim fucking Harbaugh. That's why I was bitching and moaning about it all off season. We've had this conversation how many times?
My dad at the dinner table has said the same exact thing as you just said right now, and my answer will always be the same. If he was never going to sign with us, there's no reason to talk about it. Yeah, there's no reason to get up in arms about it.
But look. All right, hey Jim Harbaugh, do you want to coach the Raiders? $1 billion? Obviously, an exaggeration here, but yeah, like that is the guy with the track record. Just offer him the bag. Offer him the bag. How can he say no?
Yeah, I mean that's just my thing. Is like Mark Davis's recent track record is that he does offer the bag. Like if I'm Jim Harbaugh and I'm looking at my potential suitors, I'm probably thinking like, actually, if I'm Jim Harbaugh and I'm looking at my potential suitors coming into this offseason, it's like, well, the Chargers are cheap as fuck, whereas the Raiders like to pay their guys. Because the Chargers, up until Jim Harbaugh, have been cheap as fuck with their head coaches. That was Tom Telesco's tenure with them, was like, hey, Tom, find us a head coach. By the way, you can like maybe give him $2 million at best per year, which let's as a random number, like that's dog shit, right? Then a John Gruden is looking for $10 million per year. Jim Harbaugh, I don't even know what he got. It's probably like 14 or some shit. I don't know. But if like players look at their potential suitors before they go in and start talking to teams, I'm sure the coaches are the same way of like, all right, so these are the available teams. These are the teams I'd be interested in. These are the teams I'd like to talk to, yada, yada. I don't know. I could see where Mark Davis was probably like, you know what? I'm tired of striking out on these big ticket guys. Let me go for something. It's the same conversation we've had before, but righting his wrong of the Rich Bizakia, like that was very much written on the wall here with Antonio Pierce. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. Yeah. But we've gotten into it. Yeah. Yeah. The point about this though, I'll easily trade Devontae Adams. I'm fine with that. Get something, like if he's going to be gone, his contract's not guaranteed coming out of this season, like starting next season. So he's going to keep demanding trades if he does stay. Right now is the best we'll probably get for him, So trade him. Like 3rd rounder plus a pick, fuck it, fine. Like I'd like to get a 2nd rounder, but if it has to be a 3rd plus another pick or just a 3rd, get something, But Crosby, you can't trade him. If you trade Crosby, there is not a single player in free agency that comes to the Raiders thinking, I can't wait to win there. They're thinking, I'm sorry, how much are you offering me? That's all they're thinking. No state income tax? I could do that. Yeah, I could struggle there for a couple of years. Sure. For, way more money than any other team's going to pay me. You need to have a guy like Max Crosby, not only to be taken seriously, but like Okay, Ben Johnson. Hey, Ben Johnson, you want to coach the Raiders? We just traded Max Crosby. I think I'd rather talk to the Titans, dude. Sorry. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
Uh,
no.
Fonzie said, I would say hell no as well. I think referring to trading Crosby for a wide receiver one.
Oh, yeah.
And then he says they took Breida and Mostert too, referring to the Dolphins, I think with their yards after the catch. Fonzie agrees that he's comfortable with Dobbs as our backup, not relinquishing him. Yeah, all right, but here's the thing. And here, I'll bring up this comment. Fonzie asks, Mike, would you take Dobbs or Minshew?
I feel like I kind of answered this, but just because of the veteran presence, I guess I would take Minshew. But maybe for where this current Raiders team is at, I might take Dobbs because he's a little bit more of a question mark hue around him. Whereas Minshew, it's like, I think I know what I'm getting here. So for where the Raiders are at, sure, I'll take Dobbs.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would also take Dobbs over Minshew. That's just personal preference. One interesting thing, though, would Kyle Shanahan take Joshua Dobbs over Gardner Minshew? I want you to think about that. I have a feeling that he would take Minshew over Dobbs if they were both the same price.
Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah, because right now Josh Dobbs is the quarterback 3 behind Brandon Allen.
Yeah,
I feel like Minshew would be, a little bit closer to Purdy's skill set, be the veteran. I feel like if Minshew was on the 49ers right now, Kyle Shanahan would have him as quarterback 2. Whereas Josh Dobbs right now, you and I can both agree we maybe prefer him a little bit more over Minshew. Dobbs right now is the quarterback 3 on the Niners. Fonzie says Winston is kind of like Baker. It's a good comparison, But I'd say Winston has always been more upbeat and positive, and Baker has always kind of been like a, I guess always been viewed as a diva, sort of, as a quarterback. Fonzie said Renfro is ideal for Jimmy. I mean, he was literally on the team with Garoppolo last year, and we thought that was going to be his go-to guy, and it just didn't happen. Not everyone is coachable, though. Doomerville haunts Mike. That's a Bronco for sure. Yeah, so that's why Mike brought up Elvis Doomerville. Crosby is generational. Still replaceable, though, if you get the right exchange. Yeah, I mean, everybody is replaceable for the right, exchange. The thing is, though, who right now in the NFL, if you were to do a 1-for-1 for Max Crosby, would you take? Would I take Nick Bosa? No. All right. What would be the proper trade compensation right now in order to acquire Max Crosby? How many first-round picks? Like 3, and then, like 3 first-round picks? Is that what it's going to take? Like that's quarterback market level, if I'm the Raiders, obviously I'm not the Raiders. If I was the decision maker for the Raiders, would I take 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby? I would say no. You're taking 2 dart throws versus a guy who is a generational talent. Not doing it. Let's see here. What else? As we wait for, Mike, I guess, had to step away for a second as we wait for Mike to get back. This is the perfect time right now. I'm taking all the comments. So Mike wants what everybody wants, perfect quarterback, perfect head coach, perfect GM. Yeah. That is the trio for success. That's the trio for Super Bowls in the NFL. Fosse tunes back into the channel. He says, "Sup, boys?" Fosse, thank you for tuning back in. He says, "Sorry, Mike, rough game." When Mike comes back, I'll let him know that you said that. And if I forget, don't let me forget. say you can comment it again, but I'll try not to forget. I have it starred right now in the comments. Alana McCullum, I do not recognize you tuning into the channel, so I think this is maybe your first time at least commenting on the channel. We appreciate you for commenting. Alana says, Crosby tweeted a pic of him in a Lions uniform. I'm going to pull that up right now. It's probably nothing, but, it's probably him just trying to troll everybody who's saying that he wants to be a Lion, and like Aiden Hutchinson just went down. But that would be wild if he actually did get traded to the Lions. So let me look at his Twitter. I don't see him tweeting anything, so maybe I got trolled, but did he retweet it? Like if you can, let me know in the comments for sure. This is the closest thing that I have here. So just to clear things up. But Max Crosby says, sending prayers to Hutch, alluding to Aiden Hutchinson, who broke his leg today during the Lions game versus the Cowboys. And Easy, at Speakeasy Sports does this edit, answer prayers for Hutch. So let me see here if I can see who has reposted this. View quotes, reposts. Did Max Crosby repost this? I'm not seeing it. Let me know in the comments, about Max Crosby. Because if he did tweet that, I think that it's probably just a troll fans who are like, let's trade Crosby, or the speculation that he's unhappy. Because I did want to bring this up to Mike, and maybe when Mike comes back, we'll talk about this. I didn't like that Max Crosby shoved one of his coaches. It's like, you have to control yourself, be disciplined. The football field is a privilege. A lot of people would die to be out there. A lot of people, there's people at like high school levels who have, passed away on a football field. Like, you never know when when it can be your last moment. So don't throw a tempered tantrum and take it out on a head coach on the sideline who's only just trying to help you win games. Like, this is, what this reminded me of? It reminded me of the Devontae Adams pushing the cameraman a couple years ago. And while I think this is like slightly a level, better than that, because it's actually somebody on the team and not somebody who's like completely isolated doing their own thing separate from the team, I think that it's just a bad look. It's like, there's kids who are watching who are going to see that grow up and do the same thing. Like, we see it with baseball when people show up to umpire or anything. Like, nobody, it's not even just for the kids. It's like, it's also, it's just not a good look to be pushing your coaches. We get it. You're frustrated, but control yourself. That's just my opinion. Max Crosby can absolutely, he has an invite right here to tell me to shut up if he wants to comment under the show. Max Crosby, I know that you're a big fan of the show. Thank you for watching. He's in the comment section. Well, not in the comment section. He's one of the viewers right now, clearly, right? But yeah, Fonzie says Pierce is what you as fans wanted, referring to Raider fans. Probably not Mike. I think Mike was a little indifferent. Still waiting for Mike to come back. Mike was a little bit indifferent on whether or not they could keep Antonio Pierce, but I think Mike really wanted Patrick Graham to stay as the defensive coordinator. So, you put 2 and 2 together. The only way for that to even have a chance was to hire Antonio Pierce as the head coach. And, he wanted the continuity of having Patrick Graham's defense from last season on the Raiders, because it was the first time in a while that the Raiders had a good defense. You pair the Raiders defense last season, towards, as soon as Antonio Pierce took over, and you know, I guess you can include this season's defense. You mix that with the 2016 Raiders, you know, or any Derek Carr led Raiders, you probably have a playoff team. You know, the defense has not been good except for with Patrick Graham at the helm. So I mean I've been pretty outspoken that I think Antonio Pierce deserved an opportunity at the job if the Raiders could not land Jim Harbaugh. I was pretty set on that. My thing was, if Jim Harbaugh is an option, you do everything at all costs. Mike and I have argued this on the channel however many times. This whole offseason was just talking about, can the Raiders get Jim Harbaugh? You know, if Jim Harbaugh's out there, you got to get him. You know, so maybe you guys are tired of listening to that conversation, but it's the elephant in the room right now. It's did the Raiders make the right decision? And could they have pursued Harbaugh a little bit harder? I think they could have made a stronger effort, but there's no way to know without actually knowing the situation. So Fonzie thinks that Crosby wouldn't do that. I don't see anything on Twitter right now of Crosby doing that. So we'll see. Alana McCollum says, Crosby wants to be a Lion. He tweeted out a picture of him in a Lions uniform after the game. I don't know. Alana says it's on Twitter. It was his account on Twitter. I don't know if that has been since deleted, but, I can't find anything right now. If you do have the exact tweet and want to send it over, maybe I just couldn't find the specific tweet. You can feel free to send it to our Twitter page. You can follow us on Twitter individually. Our Twitter names individually are here at JCK510, and then Mike's is at MForrester9. But if you want to send it so I can put it on the show right now, I'm currently logged in on the Silver and Gold podcast page. I will put a quick little banner here at Silver_Gold pod on X. So yeah, that's if you want to send things to Mike and I, or if you want to tweet at us. That's our Twitter page. I know it's X, but that's our X page for this YouTube channel. But going on furthermore to the comments, I'm going to take this off the screen so I can put comments here. Where did I leave off? I think it was Alana, talking about the Crosby tweets, alleged Crosby tweets. Fonzie says, I feel like Dobbs is more proven. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's debatable because Minshew was literally just a Pro Bowler last season. And, Dobbs, for as good as he was at stretches last year, was also, he did struggle a little bit down the stretch. Like, all right, he was really good when he first started out in Arizona last year. And then he was, he got ran out of town as soon as Kyler Murray came back. Or even before that. Didn't Colt McCoy take back over that team? And then Kyler Murray came back, if I'm remembering correctly. Then he went to Minnesota and looked very good in Minnesota. And then, a couple games after that, kind of struggled. And I don't think it was as bad as like him deserving to be benched for Nick Mullins. But, I think that personally, if you put Dobbs and Minshew on this Raider team and had them battle it out, I think I would be more in favor of Dobbs for the weapons on the Raiders, But it's honestly close. It's close between Dobbs and Minshew. Fonzie says, I feel like Dobbs is secretly our number 2, referring to the 49ers number 2, while being listed number 3. I don't know. I mean, that could also be the case too, but the thing is, do the 49ers have 3 quarterbacks on the active roster on game day? Or is it Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen, and then Dobbs is the emergency quarterback? Because if that's the case, if that is the case, then Dobbs can't come in the game unless both Brock Purdy and Brandon Allen both get hurt. You can't even, like, let's just say Purdy goes down and they put Brandon Allen in the game. Purdy gets benched. That's not going to happen. Purdy goes down. Brandon Allen's in the game. If Brandon Allen sucks, you can't bring in Josh Dobbs unless you have him, in a designated roster spot. So I think that matters. Him secretly being the number 2, it matters on game day when you need to actually bring in the backup quarterback. So, yeah. 2 firsts for Crosby. Yeah, I think that's what I said. 2 firsts, I would say hell no. If I was the decision maker on the Raiders, 2 firsts would not get it done. I would not trade away Max Crosby for 2 firsts. That is just asking for Raider fans to burn their jerseys and, stop watching the team. Fonzie, also a guy can only do so much. I think referring to Max Crosby, one player can only do so much. Maybe you get a haul for him. Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like this. If you have watched Family Guy, and obviously, how intellectual of me to make a Family Guy reference, to something relevant, right? If this was Family Guy, this is like the mystery box, versus taking the free boat, where I think Peter had won a free boat, and the guy's like, or you can have this mystery box, and Lois is like, oh, I think we'll rather have the boat, and Peter's like, wait, Lois, see, a boat is a boat, but this mystery box can be anything. It could even be a boat, That's what trading Max Crosby away for just first-round picks would be, because you don't know if you are going to pick good players. Look a couple years ago when John Gruden traded away Khalil Mack. They got 3 first-round picks out of it, and maybe a third. They ended up drafting Josh Jacobs, who was a good pick, a little high for a running back, but still. Like, he was their bell cow for how many years? The other players they got were, I want to say Henry Ruggs was one of the players that they got from that deal. Maybe Henry Ruggs was actually their draft pick that they got. Yeah, maybe Henry Ruggs was the draft pick that they actually got from their standings. But the other player was, what was his name? What was this is where I need Mike right now. But the player's name, he was the one who flashed the gun, right? And then got released later. Oh man, let me look this up. Bear with me here. Let me see. Raiders first round picks. Hold on, my keyboard was messing up. Picks over the years. Okay. Let's go to more recent. It was, no, not Jonathan Abram. It was a different guy. Damon Arnett. That's who I was looking for. Damon Arnett was, that was one of the picks that didn't pan out. So getting first round picks does not ultimately guarantee that it's a better dart throw. Like, these are all dart throws. Some are better than others, but I would take Max Crosby. He's not even the top paid player in his position, and he's playing like probably a top 3 player in his position. Arguably. He's up there with TJ Watt, right? Let's see. The Raiders are in position to turn their whole franchise around this year. if they play their cards right, get Shedeur Sanders and go all in with Ben Johnson. I like the idea of Ben Johnson. Shedeur Sanders, I know he's very talented. I just, I don't know if maybe I'm making a whole lot of something out of nothing, but I can't help but think there's it's the fact that Deion Sanders is so closely tied to him. He is kind of living in Deion Sanders' shadow, and the fact that Deion Sanders is his head coach in college, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Shedeur Sanders, the athlete, the person. I'm sure he's a fine person. I really don't want to diminish him, but I do have like concerns of players who just kind of get accelerated to where they're at because of the name. Like right now we're seeing with Jerry Rice's son. I feel like Jerry Rice is not as involved in Brendan Rice, and Brendan Rice right now kind of has to fight for it. And clearly, I think Shedeur Sanders is more successful right now. He's probably projected to be a first-round quarterback, but I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about it. I don't know the other quarterbacks in this draft class, but if we're talking about players who are blood related to Hall of Famers, the guy that I want to get isn't even going to come out this year. The next big thing, in my opinion, at quarterback is in a couple years when Arch Manning comes into the NFL. I have a good feeling about Arch Manning, and maybe I'm projecting that too early, but I think in what he has shown, he has looked good. Fonzie doesn't think that Max Crosby would tweet that he would be on the Lions. He feels like it would be too low for Crosby. Rodgers literally pushed his head coach. Yeah, no, that's the thing. So I didn't like when Aaron Rodgers did that to Robert Saleh anyway. They try to kind of play it off as like, oh, it was too early, something like that. Or 2-score lead or whatever Rodgers said that he said. But that was a bad sign. And Robert Saleh is, by far the quickest firing of a head coach this season. We'll see if Doug Peterson or anybody else kind of follows suit in getting fired so early. But yeah, it's not a good sign. I don't like that Crosby did that. How did he do in Arizona and Minnesota? You're referring to Josh Dobbs. I think I kind of covered that. So he looked better than Minshew, in my opinion. Yeah, I think right now, I would definitely take Dobbs over Minshew for sure. Brandon has seniority as far as the playbook goes, but Dobbs is better than him overall. I could not agree more. I think the only reason, and this is why in the offseason when we signed Josh Dobbs, I wanted him to be quarterback too, but I was like, you know what? Knowing Kyle Shanahan, he was going to keep Brandon Allen as the number 2 quarterback, just for knowing the system and everything. But I think Dobbs is the better player. Would you take one guy at 98% or 4 guys at 60%? That's a very good question, because, here's the thing. You can look at it this way. If you take 4 guys at 60%, you would be getting 240% versus one guy only giving 98%. The only thing though is it doesn't multiply that way. If you get 4 guys at 60%, it's not 240%. It's 60 it would be 240 out of 400. I think that you would be getting 60% of the production, whereas if you have 98%, there's at least the opportunity to fill in guys who maybe one will give you 50%, maybe one will give you 80%, maybe, I think that I would rather just have the guy at 98%, knowing that I don't need to replace him, knowing the other positions that I need to replace. If you have 4 guys at 60%, then guess what? You have 4 guys that you need to replace at 60%. Now, if you asked me 4 guys at 80%, that's different. I'd rather have 4 players giving 80%, not 80% effort, but like production. I'd rather have 4 players giving 80% production. Maybe that's a little bit closer of a comparison, but yeah, I think that, I would take the 98 unless it was 80%. Yeah. Jonathan Abrams, he honestly might have been flashing a gun too. Fosse, I was looking for Damon Arnett, but I think Jonathan Abrams also had his issue with him too. Ruggs was another Russell. Jamarcus Russell, of course. Sorry, I'm not a Raider fan, but I talk about the Raiders probably more than a non-Raider fan should. So, welcome to the Silver and Gold podcast, where we talk about the 49ers, we talk about the Raiders. I am the 49er guy. Mike is the Raider guy, but we still give our outside perspectives on each other's teams, and we give our sort of fan perspectives on our own teams. So, yeah. Let's see. I feel like Sanders' kids will be number 3s at best. Like, you're talking about 3rd round picks, or are you talking about like 3rd stringers? I'm assuming 3rd round picks, or maybe 3rd overall. That's a big difference. Let me know. Maybe Robert Saleh is the one to turn the Raiders around. I don't know if the Raiders would be flying in line to get Robert Saleh as their head coach when the Raiders' struggle has been their offense. If the struggle is offense and Saleh couldn't fix the Jets' offense with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think that the Raiders will be first in line, because I don't think the main problem right now is the Raiders' defense. I think it's their offense. Maybe a little bit of both, but it's for sure the offense more than the defense. 4 guys that impact the game at different positions. Yeah, I think that's true. Like, all right, if you tell me that you could have 1 Max Crosby or 4 Juwan Jennings, I would probably take 4 Juwan Jennings. That's 4 playmakers who aren't at the top of their position. If we wanted to take it away from percentages and like put players, I'm not saying Juwan Jennings is like a 60%. I'm saying like maybe 80% production kind of player. Let's see. Fonzie says neither is he a Raider fan, but here we are. And Fonzie clarifies 3rd stringers. They seem to fold in big moments, if not, for the stage. Their dad's stature puts them in. Yeah, I don't know. That situation is just a little unprecedented to me in terms of a parent being so involved. But I mean, it's good that Dion is involved with his children. I think it's good. Like, as a father, I just don't know how good it will be for the professional development of their careers, but we'll see. I don't know if Mike is going to be coming back. So for now, I'm going to remove him from the screen, and I'm going to provide a Raiders versus Rams preview. Yeah, I think something came up and Mike had to step away. But he says, if I want, I can put in his pick for the Rams. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that spreadsheet. This is a first time right here on the podcast where this is an extended period of time where I do not have Mike So no, it looks better this way. Yeah, this is all me right off the cuff. Let me go ahead and preview this, I guess, myself. Raiders at Rams. Mike has already said that he's going to pick the Rams. If I got that wrong or if anything changes, Mike will let me know later in the week. But I have seen the Rams firsthand. The 49ers handed the Rams their first victory, and the Niners were in firm control of that game until the very end. The Rams were able to come back and win because the 49ers could not close out that game. One thing I will say here that is going to be very interesting is I think besides later on in the game for the Raiders, I think that early on in the game they did a good job against the Steelers' run game, and then clearly as the game went on, they couldn't hold. The Rams right now are without most of their top pass catchers, excuse me. They are without Puka Nacua. They are without Cooper Kupp. I think they're still without Tyler Higbee. They're without some starting offensive linemen. And the Rams are sitting at 1-3 right now, at the bottom of the NFC West. This is absolutely a must-win game for the Rams. And right now, God knows where the Raiders are. You know, mentally, I would love to know what goes on in that locker room. I just want to give, quick update. Mike and I did get the Steelers game right. We predicted for the Steelers. The biggest reason why I went for the Steelers, in terms of my prediction, was because the Steelers defense was going to give the Raiders offense problems. What I'm not so convinced by is whether or not the Rams defense is going to give the Raiders offense problems. Like, I'm sure the Raiders offense would have problems even just against a scout team right now. The thing is, though, the Rams defense, not that far off from a scout team. Like they're kind of, they have been better, or they were better in their last game than they were, I guess early on in the season. They made a couple adjustments here and there, but I don't know, dude. My gut is telling me Antonio Pierce is coaching for his job right now. Luke Getsy is coaching for his job right now. That's assuming that they even make it to week 7. Make it to that game on Sunday. I'm pretty sure it's not a primetime game. Let me double check. Raiders versus Rams. It's Raiders at Rams. I feel like, call me crazy, but right now, my gut is telling me that the Raiders are going to win this game because, see, my keyboard's messing up. You guys saw that firsthand. Out of nowhere, I have a Bluetooth keyboard, so it'll disconnect for a second and it'll keep pressing the button that I was most previously pressing. Mike is back in. Mike with a last-minute return.
Yes.
Mike, are you surprised that I'm picking the Raiders in this one?
Judging by the way that you were talking earlier, not really. It sounds like you are very low on the Rams this year, and in part probably because of their health right now, and I don't exactly blame you. Thank you, Fonzie, for welcoming me back.
Yeah. Also, Fossey said sorry about the Steelers game. I said I wasn't going to forget. I said I would tell Mike.
I am not that sorry about it. I want the first overall pick. So
you want the first overall pick, right? As a fan.
Yes.
Antonio Pierce has to feed his family.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oops. Antonio Pierce has to feed his family. He wants to remain a head coach, or at least I'm assuming he does.
Oh yeah, I mean all the players, everybody, they're week in, week out, they're fighting for their lives, really, their NFL lives. So like, it's not like this team just should tank. Like, that's a whole systematic organizational decision that I don't think is that is a very rare occurrence that a team is obviously tanking. Like that has to come from ownership, and that has to be like firing coaches early on in the season. Like, the Jets are not tanking, but like firing Robert Saleh would be something like that. And then like you'd need some injury luck along the way, which I feel like the Raiders in a bad way have had that injury luck of, uh, Christian Wilkins, even Crosby being out for a week, but Devontae Adams, like it just within 2 to 3 weeks, it feels like, they have hit rock bottom and they are going to stay there for a while right now. I will just say, because I got abruptly stopped and I might have to go away again in a second. I'm sorry. Just for a second.
We're almost done here. We're wrapping up.
But just even though I know this is the Rams versus Raiders preview, one last thing from last week's game, and this can be a point to this week, is like Trevon Merrick, Max Crosby, and Divine Diablo had very, very good games on defense. I could see them being a major reason, along with like a Robert Spillane, for why the Raiders win this game against the Rams. I'm just picking the Rams because of Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, but also Kyron Williams is playing very good. And hey, I mean, Najee Harris had his best game of the season this past week. I wouldn't be shocked if Kyron has a great game as well. And it's just Sean McVay force feeding like he usually does, but then again, Matt Stafford doing Matt Stafford things. So,
Well, here's what I will say. I think that, all right, if the Raiders do not win this game, like you mentioned earlier, what game can I pick them to win, going forward? Maybe the Jaguars game against the Dolphins, if Tua's still not back, but he's probably going to be back.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
maybe the Broncos. That's about it, really. That is about it.
I don't think the Raiders are like just some. I don't think they're a 2-win team. They're going to win another game.
Yeah, no, they will. That's the Raiders to a T. Is they are losing games that they should win, and they are winning games that they should not be winning. The Ravens and Panthers weeks 2 and 3, those are like telltale. What the hell just happened?
They're too good. They're too good to just lose out. The Rams are banged up. The Rams are 1-4. The Raiders defense is good. They can get to Stafford. Not saying they will. The Rams could win this game, and I'd just be like, well, now I really know about the Raiders. Like if the Rams win this game, I don't see how Antonio Pierce doesn't lose the locker room.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
Because I think the players just want to win. I really do think that they get so late in these games. They struggle so much on offense. And I think it's just like, man, what the fuck are we doing? Why the hell am I playing my ass off when the offense is like not giving us any help? Something's going on, and maybe I should just pick the Rams, but for argument's sake, I'm going to pick the Raiders. And Mike knows the Raiders a little bit better in recent memory than I do, because look, Mike has his first 2-game prediction streak of 2024.
Yes.
Another round of applause too for Mike to return. I didn't think you were coming back.
Man. I guess last thing here that I can think of, but Fonzie brings up a good question. Yes. Would I take Robert Saleh? I don't think I would take him as the head coach, but I could see him being a very, very good defensive coordinator option, because we've seen him do that in the past, right? I think he'll probably go back to the Niners. Like, that's probably what's best for him. But if for some reason that wouldn't work out, having him as defensive coordinator next year, and say, and I keep saying Ben Johnson, but there are plenty of other offensive coordinators out there that are putting up a great, uh, resume right now. People like, who's the offensive coordinator for the Texans?
Is it
Is it Bobby
Slowick?
Slowick? I think it's Slowick. That's an option. But, if you're going to go out and draft a quarterback this upcoming year, and if Antonio Pierce is fired, that's a big if, I think you need to go with a offensive-minded head coach next. And keep Telesco, unless Mark Davis sees something that's clear and obvious, yeah, Telesco sucks. You got to let him keep building his vision of his roster, because at least he has the jump on that 1 year, and then you throw in the quarterback and hopefully the right coach. And like I was saying earlier, in theory, that can make strides for this organization. They need to be consistent. So,
the how Taylor Swift has the Taylor's version of her albums.
Yes.
The Raiders without Antonio Pierce, but Tom Telesco's still there, could just be the Raiders Telesco's version.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Mike wants to leave again, but Fonzie says the Rams will win. So Fonzie's got it Rams. I've got Raiders. Mike's got Rams. So we'll see. Maybe I'm just stubborn. So let's see.
It'll be interesting.
Fossey says, cheers, mate. Yeah, Fossey. So I know Fonzie was saying, is Fonzie or Fossey? Fossey was the one that said, sorry for, it was a rough game. Sorry for that rough game. Fonzie said, he said Raiders, not Rams. Oh, hold on. Why'd you say Rams win? Oh. Living Loud with Andy says, is it too late to call Rich Gannon?
Yeah, for a quarterback.
Welcome to the channel. This is your first time commenting. We appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Rich Gannon, shit. Why not just call Tom Brady? Tom Brady has some form of interest with the Raiders, and I think Brady might. Even though he's probably got a little bit of arthritis, in his bones right now, in his joints, I think he might be a little bit of a better option. But yeah, no, Rich Gannon in NFL Street. Now that's a quarterback.
Yes. Fonzie put up another good question above this one, but Rich Gannon, that's funny. This comment right here did make me think of Brady, though, in large part because even going into the season, that was a thing of oh, excuse me, this team tires me out. Man, what could Brady do with this team? And now it's if they called Brady right now, he'd be like, yeah, I'm good. The other option or the other aspect to this is it's been reported that he is likely to be approved as a minority owner for the Raiders this week, coming on Tuesday. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully he has the golden touch, and this is the beginning of something special, but it's the Raiders. We'll see. But as far as Fonzie's question here, Saleh or our current defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham? Great question. Fonzie, I know you've been here dating back to last season, so you probably know that I'm a big fan of Patrick Graham. I would go with Patrick Graham. Even though he does not have head coaching experience, he does have continuity with this roster. But the problem there is that that's the same thing as saying last offseason, I would go with Antonio Pierce. And if the continuity doesn't matter, if he's not an upper echelon coach, it might not matter. I think he's an upper echelon defensive coordinator, but that's not to say that he's going to be a great head coach. That being said, I have to go.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry, sir. But this was a great pod.
Before you go, Mike, this is my last thing. In terms of this comment, thanks for the welcome. Tom wants to play. So right now is the perfect time to get Tom Brady back into the NFL because Baker Mayfield is balling out and the Bucks could trade Brady's contract, or his rights over to the Raiders, right? Because Brady's still technically, if he was to return to play, would have to be a Buccaneer. I know you got to go.
Yeah.
To get Brady back, all you have to say is Giselle said that Brady can't do it. He would come back. Mike,
There you go.
I'll finish up here with the rest of the comments. But thank you again for a great pod.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. So let's finish up these comments and then we're out of here for the night. It's 11:15 p.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow is a holiday. So, that's why you guys are up so late, Also, there is no bedtime for a good podcast. Let's see. Brady's presence alone would change the team. Yeah, I don't know. Is this locker room right now for the Raiders so far out of control that Brady couldn't come in and step in and, command, and lead the team? I don't know. As an owner, he will have so much input and knowledge to pass down. Yeah, that's the thing. I think Brady cannot return to play if he is an owner. I'm sure there's probably a rule that he can't do that, but that would be insane. Brady would probably be the most influential figure. I mean, he would be up there. There's been a lot, even Al Davis, you know what I mean? But he would probably be one of the most influential players to be an owner and a player at the same time. Why not just make him a coach? Have him call the plays. But let's see. After today, where do the 49ers rank in the NFC? We're done with the Rams preview. Last question before we get out of here. After today, where do the 49ers rank in the NFC? I think we talked about this a little bit earlier on whether or not they're the team to beat in the NFC. Mike and I named 3 teams that are still ahead of the 49ers in terms of the teams to beat in the NFC. There's the Detroit Lions, who the 49ers will play. The Vikings, who the 49ers have already played and lost to recently, week 2. And then the Green Bay Packers, who the 49ers will play in a couple weeks. So those right now are the 3 teams in the NFC. Mike brought up a 4th team that was sort of an interesting candidate, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think I'll give the edge to the 49ers over the Buccaneers, but they are playing good football right now. Let's see. Women have a way with words. Great show, man. Steelers fan here, but NFL guy at heart. I've been subscribed for some time. Keep up the lives. Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Honestly, the Steelers, they played a good game today. Justin Fields was able to run I think you rushed for 2 touchdowns. I am not the Raider fan of the show. My name's Josh. I'm the 49er guy of the show. So I don't think that we play the Steelers this year. I'm sorry for what we did last year, and I'm sorry that we could not deliver Brandon Ayuk to you guys this offseason. But, I definitely appreciate you tuning in, being subscribed. I mean, it's just crazy. We attract, fans from all kinds of fan bases, or viewers from all kinds of fan bases, right? So, yeah. Fonzie, I mean, the Saints too, with a good quarterback, that is. Yeah, it's just a matter of having a good quarterback. And right now, Derek Carr's hurt. But, Mike said he was going to become an owner this upcoming season, talking about, I think, Brady becoming an owner of the Raiders. Yeah, I don't know what the current status of that is right now. But yeah, in terms of Fosse's, question, those were the 3 that I would put. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but Living Loud with Andy says, absolutely, man. Yeah. Fonzie, Living Loud with Andy, Fosse, and Alana. And was there one more who tuned in? Will, and Thrash. I thank you guys all for commenting today on today's live stream. That's all we have for the show today. We'll be back next week after the 49ers play against after they play against the Chiefs. God, kill me now. But hopefully it's a fun game to watch. Hopefully it's close. It should be close. I'm hoping it's more like I hope it's nothing like what we've seen before. How about that? Because what we've seen before is the 49ers lose close, heartbreaking games, and we've seen them lose big time to the Chiefs. But that was when they first got McCaffrey and Jimmy Garoppolo. So score prediction for that, for Niners Chiefs. It's tough. I feel like, so I predicted that the Chiefs would win this game. So let's see. I think the Niners can at least score 2 touchdowns, and hopefully their kicker is okay, because I know he popped up on the injury report after making the tackle. And God, what is this special teams unit right now? Having lost or almost lost 2 kickers in 2 weeks, making a tackle on kickoffs. I think the 49ers can probably account for 2 touchdowns, 2 or 3 field goals. So this is 14 points plus another 9. So, that's it's late. My mental math isn't working, but I'm pretty sure that is 23. 20, yeah, Niners 23. I'm going to say Chiefs 24. How about that? Yeah. I'm sorry. That's so embarrassing. Like for some reason, I'm more of a visual kind of person. I'm more of a, I can write it down, do all the math, or, just have it in front of me rather than like mental math. But yeah, even as simple as that, like sometimes it's just, maybe I have undiagnosed ADHD or something, Fonzie says, thank you, bro, both of you. And, hopes everything is okay with Mike. Yeah, I'll check in with Mike. Keep up the good job, my bros. Yeah, no, like we said, we appreciate, you for tuning in. If you want, follow us on Twitter, at silver_gold_pod. You can send us DMs there. Or if you want, you can follow my personal Twitter down here at JCK510. And you can send me stuff there. You can tweet at me. Yeah. Before we get out of here, Fonzie provides his score prediction, 31-17 Niners. Go Niners. Let's get this revenge. But if we don't, it's not the end of the world, because we got the Cowboys up next. Sorry, I know, Tony, you watch the channel pretty regularly. You're a Cowboys fan, but I think the Niners are going to whoop that ass in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone. Tony, in the most respectful way possible. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll catch you guys next week. And hopefully Mike is able to finish the show next week. Mike, I'm calling you out. You better not leave me stranded next week. So, yeah. Have a good night. And catch you next week. I probably have said that 30 times.